Welcome back to Mortgage Chicks with Hot Tips. I'm Diana Harvey.
I'm Elizabeth Hole.
I'm Kim Hairsted.
And I'm Cindy Walker.
And I'm Stacey Van Skank.
Today, we have a really hot topic for everyone. We are going to talk about things you can do to get your contract accepted. We wanted to just remind you to please like, subscribe, and share to this episode so that you can see more of them. Also, wanted to take a quick minute because we've all gotten such great response from our viewers that we really just wanted to send a thank you out to everyone for the emails and phone calls we've received telling us how much you appreciate what we're doing and giving us tips on future content. Thanks so much, guys. Now let's get started and talk about tips on how you can get your contract accepted. First thing I'm going to say, I'm sure we will all agree that the most important thing is to deal with a professional licensed realtor.
Amen.
Absolutely.
And we'll come back to that in more detail. But then another important thing is
The first thing that's important is the earnest money deposit. The amount that you put on the earnest money deposit can really enhance your offer. It will show the seller that you're serious about the offer if you're willing to put a lot of money down. And I'm saying, maybe $5,000 down instead of $500. But that is the first thing that stands out on page one for an offer.
Absolutely. And another thing, Stacey, that we can do is shorten some of the inspection periods. At Van Dyke, we do offer a rush appraisal. So instead of waiting 10 days to get your appraisal back, maybe a little longer, we can do a rush fee and get it back in a week. And that can help strengthen your offer if we shorten the contingency time period for your inspections and your appraisals. And then also try to eliminate some of the contingencies. So if you have a house to sell, maybe we can get you qualified with both houses and we can remove that contingency from the contract. Anything we can do these days to make that contract just a little bit stronger.
Another thing that I've seen on a lot of the contracts that I've been receiving in lately are escalation clauses. And it's in the front and in the back. So the realtors are, before we even see the contracts, are putting in their offer that they'll escalate up to 100% or $100 above the highest bid. So if there's 10 offers on the property and they're saying they'll escalate up to $100 above the highest bid, they put a cap on it, but it's a lot more advantageous to getting that offer accepted. Another escalation clause I'm seeing is on the back end with the appraisal clauses. The sellers are wanting the buyers to totally do away with appraisals, and a lot of buyers aren't really going for that, but they're saying, okay, if the appraisal comes in low, I'll agree to pay up to XYZ above the low appraisal. I've seen them capped at $10,000 above the appraisal. I've seen them capped at $15,000 and $5,000. The only thing is we as a lender have to be able to prove where the funds are coming from, because we're not going to lend based off the lower appraised value. We're going to lend off the lower appraised value, not off of the sales price. So if it comes in lower, we're going to lend based off the lesser of the two, and we just have to make sure we can prove where the funds are coming from to make up the difference.
Yeah, I think, Cindy, I've heard that referred to as bridging the gap.
Right.
So if we're looking at a strong earnest deposit and we're looking at shortening timeframes for inspections and things like that and escalation clauses, then that boils back to the very first thing they need to do is get pre-approved.
Absolutely.
Talk to us, because that comes into play with making this in your offer. We have to first know where you stand to know what you can qualify for, how much flexibility do you have with the appraised value. We need to make sure you as the consumer, the borrower, understand the full process, what's involved, what future taxes will be. All of those things need to be done way before you make the offer, because that allows you to then put down a very strong earnest deposit. Know if you can pay that extra money for the appraisal, and also know how you can write that escalation clause and what your comfort zone is with all of those
Correct.
things.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the even better thing is to get a TBD approval, where we run you all the way through underwriting, and now not just a pre-approval letter, you actually have a TBD, to be determined property commitment. And Stacey, I know you had a great example of where that got your buyer the contract.
It absolutely did. It was just a few weeks ago. I pre-approved the customers, and what I do with all the customers now, as you ladies do, is It's not just a pre-approval, now we're collecting the documentation for the TBD commitment, and it has proven successful.
Yes.
So I had a client, there was multiple offers, and they gave the TBD commitment letter, which is like a cash offer. That's all that's
Yeah.
outstanding.
Been through
is
underwriting.
Yep.
Title and appraisal. And I also called the listing agent to explain to the listing agent everything we had already done with the customer, and their offer was picked above everyone else. It was just so
Awesome.
fun.
Wonderful
Yeah,
success
very
story.
rewarding.
Absolutely, because that'll even allow us to shorten the closing period.
Absolutely.
Yes, for sure.
Plus, plus, plus.
So, and one other thing to consider during that process is what we look at is we may want to look at delayed financing. And that may be a situation where somebody actually goes in, takes money from an asset, uses it for cash to close, but we've already pre-qualified them knowing that they can immediately refinance. To do that though, you definitely want to come to us first to make sure you can do that. Otherwise, you could wait a long time to get that money back. So the delayed financing is another tip that where you could possibly pay
Good
cash,
point.
and get financing later.
Absolutely.
So Kim, tell us what are some of the benefits of all of these things?
So when we're submitting an offer like the TBD, like they talked about, we want to make sure that there's a clean offer. You want to make sure that you have, number one, prepared, get your loan ready, get a pre-approval, get the commitment letter. And the next step, we want to make sure that you have an experienced realtor that knows how to negotiate. And then also, many buyers are told to write a letter to the sellers, but we have to be really careful with those because, the CFPB and the, guidelines for that can go a little wide. So we don't want to be too specific on those letters, but that would help as well. And having your loan officer can also speak to the seller and the listing agent to help with your purchase. These are all important steps to making a strong offer that will get you in the home, and working with professionals is the key.
So we've talked about the earnest deposit, shortening the inspection time frame, eliminating contingencies, the escalation clause, pre-approval, TBD approval.
Absolutely.
And of course, being careful what you write in those buyer love letters, working with your realtor, most importantly, and your lender to help you know what you're getting into and to help the seller know how qualified you are. But unfortunately, there's no real magic secret sauce to anything nowadays.
It's like the Wild West.
A
out there.
wish and a prayer.
It's crazy.
Yes, we've seen, as Stacey said, offers accepted that made sense because we were able to prove how qualified the buyer was. And I've seen offers that made no sense whatsoever, that were just accepted. And you've got to do the best you can, but these are all really strong tools that can help your offer go to the front of the line.
Like us on Facebook, Mortgage Chicks with Hot Tips.
And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe.
You can also email us any questions or ideas for podcasts in the future at mortgagechicks@vandykemortgage.com.
Also, don't forget to look for us on your Spotify or any of the podcast channels that you listen to.
Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see y'all next week.